And now it's time for a bit of a catch-up on the Daily Pilgrim channel with Alex's latest video log. Hello and good morning. So woke up this morning to a real frost. Car was almost frozen over. It had that little sort of light dusting over it, but yeah, it's getting colder and I'm supposed to be camping tonight. It's the last night at the Greedy Goose under the old management. They're leaving. They bought a campsite in France, and so they're selling up the pub, or should I say they've sold the pub and the campsite in Morton-in-Marsh. So sadly, we'll get over here first and I'll tell you why it's so sad for us. So it's 7:30 in the morning and it is a working day. The camper is always a lovely place to be and to work from, and I'll tell you what I'm up to in a moment. But yes, it is very sad for Noah and I. The Greedy Goose has been a real go-to place from when we first found it. I think it was it'd been July last year, so over 12 months we've been going there, and I think it's been just a very familiar place. You know, you could pull up on the campsite, vehicles then secure off the road on the campsite, go down to the pub, have a couple of drinks, back to the van, nice night's sleep, up in the morning, out and about wherever we're going. And it was great, and it was so convenient because it was right by the clinic that Helen and I run. So on days that we would, that Noah and I would go and basically use the clinic room for the basically sit and play the Xbox and eat pizza, we could do that. We had somewhere nice to go, and we could just sleep in the camper at Morton at night. So real end of an era. We're going to have to find a new place for us, but I think that's okay. It will be okay. Yeah, just got to find somewhere else. Now, something that I was thinking about this week when I did my podcast, albeit 2 days late, I did wonder if I was running out of things to say and to do and to talk about. And I don't think so much it's that I was running out of things to talk about, but I haven't been doing the things that I wanted to do. And when I go out and have adventures, or I go and explore whatever, that's when things happen and create interesting material for the podcast. And I just haven't been going on any adventures. I really did want to. But September hasn't really gone the way that I wanted it to. I thought first week of September, right, that's it, off we go. But I'm very conscious that there's still a lot of people still staycationing around. And what that means is that whereas before I could have planned to go places and they would have been very quiet, and so that would have been really good for making YouTube videos, everywhere's still packed. Even the service station the other day, I just called in at the services literally to send an email. And although this was the middle of the week, where normally there would just be me and a selection of businessmen and other sort of hippie types like me travelling around, it was absolutely heaving. It was packed, and the car park, was jam-packed full, and there were people everywhere. And I mean, I think in part my anxiety got the better of me, but I also do feel that when you're trying to do videos and it's trying to be, trying to find meaning and purpose and what have you, it's nice to have some quiet, I think. So it has been slower than I wanted it to be in terms of doing some videos and material for the podcast. I'm going to try and find some time today and tomorrow to sort of have a bit of a think through some videos that I'd like to do. Because I really am enjoying doing this. I just very conscious. I don't want to start repeating myself and going over the same stuff. So we'll see what I can come up with later. But autumn is a very important time for me. I've always had a sort of a connection with this season. I think that it's a very spiritual time, and I don't necessarily mean in a deeply religious way, but there is just something, some sort of connection to the season. I don't quite know how to put it into words, but a very mystical time and a chance for sort of rebirth. I mean, most people think of spring as being the sort of time of resurrection, as of Easter, and obviously within pagan traditions as well, the idea of rebirth in spring. But I don't see it that way. I think that autumn is a new beginning. And I think the reason is because, having been a stay-at-home dad for so many years, I'm very conscious that during the summer holiday, nothing gets done. You know, you spend a lot of time with the children, obviously from a childcare perspective, particularly when they were younger. And it's only when they go back to school that you have a little bit of time to yourself again, in order to, you know, come up with anything. So for me, autumn, you know, that was the time I always went adventuring as well. You know, when I needed some time off or away from, you know, all the issues and, you know, concerns, problems of life, that was when I went. And it was in the autumn, although possibly bordering on winter, when the separation happened and I was forced to go down this whole route of, you know, recreation. So autumn, very powerful time for me, and a few mornings now when I've woken up and it's been sort of misty, a little bit cold and damp, frosty possibly, it's I think it's just a very thoughtful time. I really do. So I have left a lot later than I wanted to this morning. I think probably still far earlier than I needed to, but I do like to be early. And I know that where I'm going, I've got to go through Swindon, and there were quite significant roadworks there still just a few weeks ago, and these were long-term roadworks as well, so not a week's worth. This was sort of 9 months worth of roadworks. I really don't know what I'm going to find, but the last time I was there, you got to quite a crucial point where you're supposed to turn right, and there's no other way round. But you get to this point where you're supposed to turn right, but you can't because they block the roundabout off. So instead, what you have to do is turn left, go down the bypass for about 6 miles, turn around and come back. So very, very conscious that I've got to add that time on as well. I mean, I'm not due at the cemetery until about 10:30, ready for an 11 o'clock service, but you know, it's now, what time is it now? It's about 20 to 8, so I reckon Google Maps would probably tell me it would be about an hour and a half this time of the morning. I think I've got plenty of time. Now, I am about now really glad for a decision that I made yesterday. I needed fuel yesterday, and I stopped at a garage on the way back. Normally I always go to Tesco, not out of brand loyalty particularly, but because I get the club card points and I use it off my mobile phone bill. So I pulled up at this garage, a non-Tesco one, and I had 2 choices. I either put just enough fuel in to get home and then back here this morning, or I filled it up even though it was more expensive. And I ummed and I ahed, MX5 there, but looking at those again, and I ummed and I ahed, and I thought, no, I won't want to do it in the morning. I'm already going to be under time pressure. So I did put the fuel in yesterday, and for me right now, I'm thinking, I'm glad I haven't got to stop, because I didn't see whether there was a queue or not, but again, pulling off the road, pulling back on, and it is rush hour, even though it's very misty and you can't see anything. Now the little MX-5 that I saw, I have been thinking again, partly because of the talk of the camper van possibly being sold. And I realised that to go from the camper back to an MX-5 would be quite a significant change. I mean, I really loved it, and I would put the roof down even in weather like this. But there is no doubting that the boots do leak on them, and if you are trying to pack it absolutely full of, you know, a bag with your robes in, which I know most people don't have to do, but I do, a briefcase, a laptop bag, camera equipment, you very quickly fill the boot, and you end up with stuff in the front with you as well. And although I do have some stuff in the front with me, you suddenly become very, very packed out, and, you know, if you do want to fit somebody else in as well. But there's also the fact that you can't camp in the MX-5. Well, you can, I suppose, but it's not the most comfortable. There is just something about the camper, and I know I keep going back to it, but just something about the fact that you can just go into the back, lie down and have a rest, have a sleep. But another little idea I had, because I was trying to find a better solution to the mounting point. Obviously at the moment I'm using a GoPro to do this video, and I quite like the GoPro for this, but it does suffer with overheating. And I'm using the 9 at the moment. The 10 has just been released. Literally 3-4 days the GoPro 10's been released, and I've been looking at it in quite some detail, and I've been trying to assess and work out whether or not it's a significant change and jump, and whether any of the features actually would be useful for me, and essentially whether it's worth spending, you know, another well, I say £500, I think it's 400 I would have to pay, because I'm a subscriber, so I get the £100 off. But even then, you know, those of you that have ever bought any camera at all, particularly a GoPro, when you buy the GoPro, you know, it's great, but it's never enough. I mean, you always need spare batteries, and to be fair, I think I've got for the 9, I think I've got 9 or 10 spare batteries. And it is the same battery, but if I was to introduce a 10 as well, what I would probably do is decommission the 8, which I've got up there, which does take a different battery. So I would then have the 9 and 10 rather than the 8 and 9, which means that the amount of batteries that I've got would suddenly be split in half across the 2 cameras. So I'd probably need at least, well, I think I'd need another 10 batteries, wouldn't I, so that I had 10 for each camera. But I think I've got enough sort of mounting points and things like that that I've collected. You know, but I think it's still, you know, it's still going to be £600, maybe £700 that it's going to cost me to integrate a new GoPro. And I really just wanted to make sure that actually it was worth it for me. And the more I looked, at it, and watched other review videos, I'm not so sure that there's enough things for me to convince me to buy one. Apparently the overheating is supposed to be actually worse on the 10 than it is on the 9. Apparently for action shots, it's really good. The only thing that I think it does have is the horizon leveling, which the 9 has as well, but apparently the 10 has got much better horizon leveling, which for me is quite a biggie, because although I don't sort of do mountain biking or skydiving or even running or walking or anything like that particularly, although walking I do want to get back into. It's always mounted up there, and so I suppose there is something about the horizon moving possibly. However, I'm just very conscious that would it pick up the inside, and would it think that that was the horizon? So I just don't know. I mean, when the 9 came out, I wasn't particularly bothered, and I bought one eventually, and I suppose I was sort of glad-ish that I bought it, but I could have done without. When we went from the 7 to the 8, that was a biggie. That was a significant difference. I think the mod is much better. Actually, I don't remember having a mod on the 7. I know I got a mod on the 8. The mod on the 9 is a bit bigger than the 8. But on the 8 and the 9, you've got the prongs that are built into the camera that drop down, whereas on the 7, you have to have the little cage around it. Which isn't a biggie until you need to change the battery, at which point it's quite, you've sort of got to clip the top off and then sort of extract the camera and then open the door, and so yeah, it's I don't know, I think I might stay just using the 9 for now. I mean, it's not my main camera. I mean, the S5 I'm trying to sort of use as the main one now. The M50 and the G7X, though, I've got to be honest, I do like the G7X. It takes really good video. The mic that's built in isn't too bad, but I can use, I've got a grip handle and a shotgun mic which I mount to it, and that actually is really, really good. And the camera itself is brilliant for just wandering around with the camera in your pocket. It's just nothing quite like that. The M50 is a bit more cumbersome, but it is light to hold, and so you can sort of hold it away from you and do a vlog. The S5, I don't think I'd want to hold it away from me for very long, particularly with the lens that I've just put on it, which is the 24-105. Which isn't one of the pro lenses. I thought it was, but it's one of the OIS, the optimized image stabilization. So the GoPro does win hands down in terms of the very lightweight portable camera that you can just carry, and I've got the folding selfie stick stroke tripod for it, which I think is actually very, very good. So should I upgrade to a 10, or should I say add a 10 in? I don't know. I'll have to have a think. Welcome any comments below, or send me a message on social media. Tell me whether you think the GoPro 10's worth it or not. So I think that's everything that was sort of on my mind. Now, the last thing that I've been really thinking about, and this again sort of brings me back to the podcast. When I started the channel, I really wanted to do this whole creating a new life thing, and that was always the purpose of everything I did. Hi, I'm creating a new life, and this is what I'm doing. But I do sort of think that I've done that now. And I wonder whether a lot of that was catharsis. And I seem to be running out of steam in that direction. So I think probably the biggest change for me, and I may have said about this before actually, but I think the biggest change for me coming up now is that, I'm going to continue to explore and do new things, and I'm going to continue to do the YouTube channel and the podcast. But I think it's going to be less forced about I'm doing this because I'm changing my life. I think we're now at the stage that I've changed it, and it is just interesting things that I'm I'm doing. So hopefully that will still be of interest. I mean, we're still trying to get the numbers up, and I'm very conscious that I haven't really done enough at the moment to do that. But I think I just wanted to get into some little driving vlogs again, really, and just sort of put those up there. Get me in good spirits for some of the bigger projects. So I think I'll sign off for now. I should try and do something on the big camera, slightly bigger video quite soon, and to say thanks for watching this one, and I'll catch up with you all again very soon. Bye bye for now.